Nothing says unprofessionalism like poor audio. Fix that by picking up the Rode VideoMic Pro for your smartphone or your DSLR today. Affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and I was sent this article a lot today by people asking that I talk about it. They're very upset because Disney is changing up Pirates of the Caribbean by removing the bride auction scene. Now, if you remember that particular scene in the ride, it's a bunch of women that are chained up with a guy trying to like sell them off, and you had a hot redhead in the voiceover line, "We want the redhead," you know, like you have that, and it was the scene that's been decried as sexist for quite some time, which is very true. It is very sexist. However, shit like that actually happened in history. And so some have argued that this particular change might actually be considered like a watering down, or in some respects, like a whitewashing of history in that regard. And so people are upset about this. People are upset about this. And I understand it completely. But let's go through the article here and just see what they have to say. So one of the more controversial parts of Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean is the bride auction scene depicting women lined up for an auction that will no longer be part of the ride next year, according to 2 Disney parks on its blog. When the ride closes for routine maintenance in 2018, the scene will be altered to depict villagers lined up to give up their valuables. The auction take a wench for a bride sign will be redone to read "Auction Surrender Ye Loot." Walt Disney World's version of the ride will also be subject to the same modifications. Yeah, because they'd have to homogenize it, right? Because God fucking forbid you depict history, even cartoonishly stupid history. Well, it was real history as being cartoonishly stupid. That's what I want to say there. That's basically what's happening here. Is they're like, whoa, whoa, we can't have this anymore. We got to get rid of this. And again, people are upset about this. Now, if you remember the ride, and I'll show you guys this brief clip right here. It just shows them right there. You see the redhead, you see the auction sign, and the pirate who is sending them away. And that is that scene right there. That's just a quick clip that I found on YouTube. If you've been on the ride, you know precisely what I'm talking about. Pirates of the Caribbean is an absolute staple at Disneyland. A ride I've been going on since I first went to the park 30 years ago. And it's one of my all-time favorites. And so every time they announce additions to the ride, or in this case, alterations or maybe even subtractions, not a huge fan. I look at Pirates of the Caribbean as being a work of art. And art should never be detracted. It should never have things removed from it. It should always just have things added to it, and not altered or anything like that. So, like, you could argue that, like, the addition of Captain Jack Sparrow, I think 3 times in the ride, is an addition to the art, therefore trying to reflect upon the films that have been coming out now for the past 14 years. All 5 are definitely worth your time to watch. If you haven't seen them already, I do recommend them. The last couple are a little bit odd, but the first 3 are pretty tight. And that being said, you've got, the other changes that have happened as well, but this article will go through that. Now, it says here, this is what's going to be changing. A tall red-haired woman is currently present in the ride as a prize, will remain, but she'll be recast as a pirate herself, holding a rifle and wearing a feathered hat as she oversees the surrendering booty. Presumably, the "We wants the redhead" voiceover will also be removed. I think that would probably make sense in the context of that. This right here gives you an idea of what to expect from what it's going to look like. So you're going to have the guy on top, the woman right here, and then she's going to be remastered, if you will, probably high definition, holding a rifle, and "Auction Surrender Ye Loot." It kind of takes away from the, I guess, intensity of the scene, so to speak. But it's still, I don't know, kind of dumb in my opinion. Now it says here, and this is coming from the team who making the change, our team thought long and hard about how best to update the scene. This is coming from Kathy Magnum, the Senior Vice President, Atlantic Region Executive, Walt Disney Imagineering, which is just an absolute mouthful. And try putting that in a business card. Now, she says in a statement to the OC Register, given the redhead has long been a fan favorite, we wanted to keep her as a pivotal part of the story, so we made her a plundering pirate. We think this keeps to the original vision of the attraction and as envisioned by Mark Davis, ex Antoncino, and the other Disney legends who first brought this classic to life. Now, that's maybe true. We don't know. They're not there anymore. But it does kind of make sense. Disney always alters its rides. They always alter its rides. Tower of Terror is now Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Right? Same exact ride, just new coat of fucking paint. And I hear it's pretty good. But it's still the same exact fucking ride. So it's like not much is changing. Star Tours is a good example of what changed. They replaced Star Tours in 2011, I believe, with Star Tours 2.0, and then they got rid of Star Tours. So instead of adding to it by adding more and having the originals being part of it, they just got rid of the ride altogether and brought in its replacement. See, Guardians of the Galaxy at least has the same ride concept, just different paint. It'd be like getting rid of Haunted Mansion and replacing it with, you know, Slightly Frightening Casino. It's just, or not even that, like you know, like ballroom dancing type shit. Like it would just be ridiculous and people would have a goddamn fit. But this is a subtle change that isn't probably going to impact a lot of people. Now it says here that the much beloved ride has been subject to alterations before. Years ago, a scene depicting pirates chasing women has altered to show the women carrying food trays so that the men are chasing food. Again, I understand that Disney wants to make this way more family friendly. There were calls about it being sexist back in the day. I haven't heard any freaking calls about this thing being sexist. I haven't heard any calls about this scene being sexist to the point of where they wanted to change it, but apparently someone got the memo to the people at the head of the park. And then another scene showing a pirate chasing a woman has been reversed to show the woman shooting the pirate out of her home. Like, no rape for you. No rape and pillage for you. Like, that's basically what's happening. Again, these are little things that ultimately don't impact the overall sense of the ride. And I don't even really notice the changes having gone on the ride off and on for 30 years. So there's that. But it's, again, are they necessary? Right? Are any changes to these rides necessary? And that's the thing, though, is the Imagineering ambassador and Disney legend Marty Sklar here says that changes like this are part of Walt's vision for the park. Imagineers are simply reflecting what Walt started the day Disneyland opened, making changes that create exciting new experiences for our guests. I can't think of a single attraction that has not been enhanced and improved, some over and over again. Change is a tradition at Disneyland that today's Imagineers practice. And that's true. Disneyland is definitely trying to, they're stuck. Disneyland itself, the park, is stuck by like location. Walt Disney World being in Orlando has lots of space to play with. Disneyland in Anaheim does not. It doesn't have as much, especially given like the encroaching nature of LA that's come down that way. And the fact that Disney, I do believe, has ultimately been trying to buy off larger swaths of land nearby in order to make extra parks. They're trying to build it up. And so I get like that kind of thing happening, that things are always building, kind of changing. There was a whole notion this week with like the Hall of Presidents adding in a Trump president thing, and a controversy surrounding that. And I guess anything is really controversial. I look at this change of Pirates of the Caribbean and I think to myself, like, okay, fine, I can see it. But as I said at the beginning of this, I don't prefer art to be altered. Right. And I know when it comes to Disney and Imagineering, like their job is not necessarily to like take away from art, but to add upon it or change it for something new and exciting. But making that same argument, though, for just kind of reversing a few scenarios where men are chasing women to men are chasing women holding trays, or a woman shooting a pirate out of her home, does kind of take away from what you could argue is like the dirty nature of pirates. Right. Because yes, this ride does in some respects glorify pirates. It doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you know, the ride can't depict that that lifestyle in some particular fashion. And it's you know, it's in what is it in the French Quarter is where the ride's at, you know. And look at like even Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion has some darker themes in it too, but no one seems to have a problem with that. The biggest complaint you hear out of Haunted Mansion these days is as you're going on the ride and it gets to right before it goes in, you'll hear the little intro about like, you know, keep your arms and feet in the ride at all times. And then it's immediately followed up with Spanish. And it's not even like attempting to be creepy Spanish. It's just Spanish. Takes you entirely out of the ride. Lead with Spanish, then go to English, and I think people will be happy with that. But at the end of the day, this isn't going to affect the ride much. It's a part in there that that's that. It's, again, I don't know. I'm not too keen on it, but it's also not going to kill me as a result. I'm not going to like boycott the ride for changes. These changes happen all the time. All right. You know, I just think that the reason why stuff's being changed is probably more of an identity politics argument rather than something people are legitimately asking for. Because if you were to sit there and poll people going out of the ride, did this part with the bride auction cause you to lose your shit? you would probably hear, huh? What? What? Where do I get churros? Like, no one's going to care. And everything else. But here's the thing. I just want to leave it with this one, because you know there's going to be controversy on this one. Watch, this will happen next. So she's the redhead, right? The lady on the screen's the redhead. No one's given her a name. She's a nameless redhead. But they're trying to make her a pirate. Nameless redhead, the pirate. Watch when this story starts to spread wide, or as we get closer to the release of this, you'll start seeing numerous think pieces coming out saying why Disney is sexist for not naming the redhead pirate. I guarantee that's going to happen. Why? Because it's clicks, it's easy, and idiots fall for it. Anyway, though, what do you guys think about this? Is this a good change, a bad change? Is Disney completely cucked? These are things I want to know. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Peace out.